And we're back. This is Investing Insights with Barry Burnett. I'm your host, Barry Burnett, and we are on Talk Radio 790 KABC for you, the entrepreneurial investor. You've fought all your life to build a future. You've thought about it. You've worked hard. You're just at the edge of planning your next acquisition. Let's say you've already owned industrial parks and shopping centers and maybe an office building or two. Now, you're trying to encourage your grown kids to do the similar thing. You've got a son and a daughter, both have their homes, but they haven't got any other investments. And you've been rattling their cage about it. You finally get them to make the call. They call up Aaron DesMarais at Augusta Financial. It's augustafinancial.com. And Aaron, what do you tell them when they say, oh, I really want to get started? What do I do to buy my first fourplex?
Well, I personally like to have a small conversation just to feel out what their motivation is and to find out what our clients are exactly what they're trying to accomplish. In this example, say buying a fourplex. So once we get to the point where we find out what you're trying to accomplish, then we have to go through the checklist about the kind of paperwork that we need to accomplish your goals. With every loan in America today, you're going to have to start off with 2 years tax returns, your most recent pay stub, and 2 months bank statements, wherever you have your assets that you're going to include in your investment.
Okay, so you've got to have income tax statements and pay stubs and all that. Well, okay, but what about the self-employed individual who maybe doesn't look so great on paper?
Well, we're still going to have to look at his tax returns. We have to start there. You know, we're not quite to the stated loan stage again. They're starting to pop up a little bit, but it all starts with tax returns. We have to ascertain what their income is, and in the case of some of these investors, you know, we want to find out if they have an investment history, if they have histories of being landlords. We've got to see what they're bringing to the table.
So, Aaron, they come to you and they say they have their 2 years tax returns. They've got their paperwork for their current income stream. They bring you the amount of their deposits. What goes on from there?
At that point, we do a thorough analysis of the loan, of the potential loan. We have to figure out what our client is capable of acquiring, you know, as far as buying property with what he brings us in his form of his paperwork. So it's a formula that we have to follow. It's about debt ratios, percentages of income versus how much the house costs and how much your overall debt structure is applied to that. So we have to figure out on paper what they're capable of doing.
Okay, so all that boring stuff.
Well, it's boring, but it's very important.
Yeah. It boils down to they need to give you what you ask for.
We have to have it or we can't make a loan.
Okay, so these people, they come in and they say, well, you're asking a lot of private information. I didn't want to go through the grilling. I just want to buy a piece of property. Well, okay, flesh it out a little bit.
Well, they have to pass the smell test today, okay? Since we had the mortgage meltdown in 2008, the lenders are not handing out money anymore. You have to be able to qualify for a home loan. You have to be able to impress the lender and to prove to the lender that you will be capable of making the payment on that home loan. It's a very high-risk business.
Now, 2-3 years ago, it was extraordinarily high risk and foreclosures coming out their ears.
Extremely difficult.
If you wanted a loan 2-3 years ago, you had to prove you didn't need the money, then they'd give you all you asked for. But that's changed considerably, hasn't it?
Well, it's gotten looser. It's not as loose as we'd like it to be. It's definitely, the guidelines have definitely softened up.
But the pendulum is loosening.
It is definitely heading back into the direction where it's going to be more helpful for investors when they obtain their financing.
Okay, so
we're not there yet, though, Barry.
No, but we're working on it. But they sign a gajillion pieces of paper. I've heard that from start to finish, that in an average real estate transaction, the buyer has the privilege of signing, initialing, or affirming approximately 400 times, including all disclosures and all contracts. But not all on the same day.
No. Well, the disclosure package I sent out yesterday for a loan that we opened yesterday is 35 pages just to start the process.
In addition to the realtor disclosures.
Correct.
And the neighborhood
Nothing to do with
disclosures.
The realtor, just our initial disclosures.
Yes.
Was 35 pages
Yes,
yesterday.
and it has to be signed. So get ready. It's not going to be all at once writer's cramp. You're listening to Investing Insights with Barry Burnett. We are talking with Aaron DesMarais, Senior Loan Officer with Augusta Financial, and Mike Meena, President of Augusta Financial. And the reason we're having this conversation is so that you, the listener, the entrepreneurial investor, can make arrangements to protect your future. And the way you do that is to buy property. And the way that you buy property, unless you've just got a big fat checkbook ready to write the whole thing out in cash, and some of you do, but if you're leveraging your investment, your return on investment's going to potentially be much higher, right?
Absolutely. But I also want to clarify, Barry, there is plenty of money out there to lend, and do not be afraid of the loan process. Yes, you have to go through some hoops. Yes, you have to answer some uncomfortable questions, but the financing is available, and people that deserve to get home loans get them every time.
And from my experience, it's gotten much more rational, much more reasonable just in the last 6 or 8 months. So, Mike, somebody comes and they say, okay, we want to do this for our fourplex. We're ready to start our investment portfolio beyond just the house we own. And where do you go from there? You give them what kind of a certification for their lender, for their realtor?
Once we review the documents, basically we're going to go ahead, give them a pre-approval letter. Now, keep in mind, when you go to buy a fourplex at $800,000, the rents are going to be commensurate to a $400,000 single-family residence, where their payment's going to be, and that's going to offset what the mortgage payment is. So generally, if they qualify for an $800,000 fourplex, they might qualify for an $800,000 fourplex, a $200,000 condo, a $400,000 single family, all at the same time. So if they have that down payment and they have the qualification level, we could probably get them qualified for everything all at once. Now, again, I believe in the dollar cost averaging thing. I'd like to put a certain amount of money away for certain things every single month, and I budget myself that way. Mm-hmm. And I would tell my clients to do the same thing. Don't buy 12 houses at once. Buy one this year, buy one in 6 months or 8 months, buy one a year from now. Buy at different times of the year. You know, it seems like the second half of the year, the last couple of years, has been slower than the first half of the year.
But do you suppose that being prepared, they can be better planners?
Oh, absolutely.
And so they come to you and you get them a pre-approval letter, they take it to their realtor, and they can go out shopping.
Yes, absolutely.
And some of the more savvy realtors, the ones who have a better draw and a better understanding, they look at the lender, the letter from the lender, and say, well, this is a top tier, first level direct lender. I can make a phone call and speak with Aaron DesMarais, Mike, Meena, your underwriting staff directly, and find out whether this has a high likelihood of being a closed transaction, or it may be one of the other shops that has a very low likelihood of closing.
Well, our reputation stands alone, you know, and it's fantastic to have that. And you know, as a real estate agent, that it's very important that you have a good pre-approval letter. And if you walked in with a pre-approval from a bank, it's not going to hold the water that we're going to hold. And when they call and they say, hey, Mike, tell me about this loan, or hey, Aaron, tell me about this buyer, we're going to be 100% honest. They're jumping through hoops to even find out who the loan officer is at some of these places. And the loan officer's afraid to say anything. And, you know, keep in mind, Barry, when you're looking at loan officers and you come to a place like us, Aaron has his DRE license, or BRE, Bureau of Real Estate license. He also has his NMLS license. I have the same. I have the broker version of both. And you walk into, say, just Bank of America, and I don't want to throw them under the bus, but they hand those out like candy. Because they're a federally chartered bank, anybody could be a loan officer. The guy who was a teller last week could be your loan officer that's taking care of the most important transaction of your life. But that's what they set up through the whole little TARP situation.
And God bless them. That's great that they got a nice promotion, but they still, that doesn't mean they know anything about what they're doing.
Well, no, it's scary.
Even in our own company, we've had employees that have left our company because they can't pass those tests, and they go to Wells Fargo and B of A. I'm not supposed to mention any names, but they can't pass those tests, so they can't work at Augusta Financial. So they go to the big box lenders that don't require them to have those licenses. So what kind of quality of an employer are you getting when they can't even work at Augusta Financial?
Well, these are things we'll talk about, but these are important aha moments here on Investing Insights with Barry Burnett. If you want to know more about this, if you want to contact these and our other spectacular experts, go on barryburnett.net, barryburnett.net, to get downloads of our contacts, our experts, our partners, like Augusta Financial, whom we trust. This is Barry Burnett, Investing Insights with Barry Burnett. We will be right back with much more AHA.